Hey everyone, so recently I played and beat the Gunk, and this is not going to be a review. This is really my thoughts of what this game could have been, as well as a brief commentary about how the homogenization of video games results in things like this. So, the Gunk obviously has an environmental theme to it. The premise is that you have crash landed on a planet, and that there's this malignancy that is poisoning a planet called the Gunk. You have this device, the glove on her hand there, that you can see in the picture, that can use to vacuum up the gunk. And then when she does, the area immediately springs to life. And then rinse and repeat for the rest of the game. That is the main gameplay loop of the gunk. So basically, you clean up an area and the area thrives. And the problem with this is while it may be visually interesting, it's not a great gameplay loop because there's absolutely no interdependency. There's no cumulative benefit. You cleaned up this area, now you move on to another. You clean up this area, then you move on to another. And the fact that it's kind of on autopilot, what I'd like to have seen is if this functionality actually was modified so as that it was cumulative. So, in other words, rather than having this linear progression, because even though the paths may twist and turn, it's linear. You basically have to do area 1, then 2, then 3, so on and so forth. What I've preferred is that you could have chosen where you go, and depending on where you go would determine what you find. So, say you go to the river. You clean up the gunk there. Well, now the river clears up, and now that's provided irrigation water to the fields. Okay, so you have fields, you need things to grow. So maybe you have to go to somewhere else, clean up the gunk there, get seeds there, and then the seeds can be planted. No, I'm not saying that this should be a farming sim or anything like that. Some of this would be kind of automated. So maybe everything you find you'd bring to your spaceship and then it kind of goes on autopilot. But anyways, you'd go somewhere, you find seeds, you plant the seeds, and the grass grows, but the fruits don't. Why not? Well, there's no bees. You'd have to go somewhere else, free the bees, clear up the gunk there, free the bees, and now those would, because now they can be pollinated, those would grow. And then, like, if you have a field where things are growing, maybe you go to a couple areas, you free some animals, the animals come back and they start grazing on the plants, they have something to eat, and then they multiply. And so now you have like a herd of animals. So I think if they had taken this very simplistic environmentalism 101 watered down approach and instead make it the key goal of what you're trying to do, I think that would have been better because ultimately in this game, it's like a lot of games, you're just trying to get to the end of the level. That's all you're trying to do. So it may have this environmental theme, but it's just get to the end of the level. They even shoehorned in a little bit of combat. And I think that gets into what I was saying at the beginning about the homogenization of games. Is that while, yes, there are independent games that are innovative, that some of these major publishers, unfortunately, they boil down games to a very small set of games. Third person action adventure, first person shooter, that they create these very constraining types of games, and within those games, you have certain elements. Well, third person action adventure should have combat, so we're going to have some combat. But it is some of the weakest combat I've ever seen. There are precisely 3 enemies in this game, plus a final boss. So there's like these little beetles that are very hard to see. There's this one type of plant that can attack you. That's the bulk of it. So there is a third enemy, but it's basically a mini boss. And you don't see it until like halfway through the game, and I think you only fight it a total of 3 times. So there is combat, but it's not compelling. And I wish, and I'm not trying to dunk on this team because I think they had a good idea, but I wish they hadn't leaned into the trappings of third person action adventure. If they were able to think outside the box, sorry for using such a cliche, and say, we don't need combat. Let's lean on this environmental theme and have that be what you're trying to do. You're not just trying to get to the end of the level, you're trying to rebuild the environment. You're trying to find, clean the water, plant the seeds, save the animals, get them to reproduce, save the bees. So if that's what you're trying to do, then I think they should have gone all in on that, gone all in on this cumulative benefit of trying to fix the environment. And I think that would have made for a much more compelling game than what we got because, again, it's very everything you accomplish is standalone. You go to the area, you hoover up the gunk. One of just two specialty plants show up. One is a plant that grows into a toadstool, which lets you get to a higher area, and one is a plant that explodes that lets you clear an area. Again, it's basically like a key and a lock. So you clear up the hoover and you get the key to the lock. You get the explosive one to open the door. You get the toadstool that gets you to the higher area, and then rinse and repeat. And like I said, I think the problem is that you don't see the cumulative exponential benefit of doing these tasks. It's just rinse and repeat, clear this area, clear this area. Yes, you get that instant reward of, oh, look, pretty flowers grew. You don't get that deeper understanding of the environment. And I think you could have done that. They could have done that and still had this be gamified, that it could still have been a game. I mean, the very fact that you have farming sims and things like that and Animal Crossing. So I think this could have been its own thing. They just needed to jettison the combat, and that they could have focused on how would you want to make this world come alive, and again have you choose where you want to go. So it'd been a little bit more open world, I guess, but within reason. It would still been like stages, and that you would find the various things that you need to have this kind of cumulative area, and that itself is the reward as you see this area that you affect grow and grow and grow. And, I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head that, if you had a team of people working on this, they could come up with something even more compelling. So I think that's really all that I wanted to say. Again, I'm not trying to dunk on this team. I have no doubt they're an independent team. I think this got published by Microsoft. At least it was promoted by Microsoft. I'm not sure if they're the ones who published it, but it was promoted by them. It's a system exclusive, I believe, for the Xbox, as well as also for the PC. But yeah, I think that with a little more work, a little more ingenuity, they could have really leaned into the environmental aspect of this and come up with this really interesting environment that you're reclaiming. So rather than just doing these independent reclamations, you could have done this much larger impact. And who knows, maybe they'll do DLC, maybe they'll do a sequel, I don't know. But I'd like to see that if they do anything like this in the future, that they really lean into the environmental aspect of it and jettison the combat. Because, like I said, the combat feels like it was there because it's a third person action game and not because it actually brings anything to the game, that they should have trusted in the thrill of that environmental reclamation, that idea that you're bringing life back to a planet that's dying. I think they should have trusted in that functionality, not watered it down, and that this could have been really interesting and really compelling. Anyway, so that's about it. Like I said, this is not meant to be a review. I usually don't do that. This is just what I thought this could have been versus what we got. And again, I'm not trying to dunk on these guys. I'm sure they worked very hard. The fact that it's only $25 USD tells me that it was a very small budget game. But who knows? We'll see what happens in the future. And I guess that's about it. So I hope you found this interesting. And please do enjoy the rest of your day. Oh, and normal content will be coming back soon. At the time of this recording, it's after the first of the year, so probably about another 3 weeks or so is when people will be returning back to college, is my guess. So, anyways, please enjoy the rest of your day.